Hello and welcome to the National Security Conversation. We know that the combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and 5G will fundamentally transform our world. But the fifth generation mobile connectivity in its own right will be key to many life-changing innovations in the years ahead. Real-time connectivity, virtual reality in streaming, remote surgical procedures, speeds at least 10 times greater than today's 4G networks, advanced manufacturing, so on and so forth. But 5G or even upcoming 6G is not without its politics and geopolitics. The Chinese firm Huawei is indeed the market leader, given that its products are cheaper than those of its competitors. But the United States is doing everything it can to prevent Huawei's growth, citing security considerations. The United States has been demanding that its allies and friends cease awarding contracts to the Chinese company. The biggest competitor to Huawei is the Finnish company Nokia. India recently ruled out Huawei as an equipment manufacturer and technology provider for India's 5G systems. Will the US and Indian decisions advantage Nokia and its home country, Finland? How will the geopolitics around 5G play out in the months and years ahead? To discuss the geopolitics of 5G, I have with me the Finnish Ambassador to New Delhi, Ritva Koukku Ronde. Prior to her stint in India, she served as the Finnish Ambassador to the United States and Germany. So, welcome to the National Security Conversation, Ambassador. It's a pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you, Dr. Jacobs. It's indeed my pleasure that you invited me. Thank you so much.
You know, let me, in an interview with you, I cannot but ask a few questions about 5G. So let me begin this interview with a few questions on 5G, given that 5G will revolutionize our lives in the days to come. And in fact, only 4 companies in the world are in a position today to supply the components required to build a 5G network, including the Finnish firm Nokia. How is Finland, your country, looking at some of the geopolitical underpinnings of this rather revolutionary technology?
Indeed, future connectivity is really, and 5G and its future evolutions will be major enablers in the digital transition process. They are key assets for the productivity and competitiveness of our societies. And new technologies, of course, will enable novel ways to connect people and connect objects, to form software-based open networks with highly reliable flexibility and deploy new services also and business models. And indeed, this is something very, very important. And Finland is one of the leading countries, like you said, in the world in the introduction of 5G, actually already 6G. And this, I also think that this, due to this technology development, there will be a profound change and transition in taking place, which penetrates almost all areas of societies. And this is coming also, you refer to geopolitics, and it is coming a forum. It is already a competition between various players, various states. And it shows some kind of fragment and intensifying also. But at the same time, I would say also, and I want to emphasize that also, that for a country like Finland, which is based on very open society and open policies, open operating environment, it's very important that this is sort of open competition. It is increasing interdependencies between the various players. It is, but I really believe also that really no state or group or company is really capable of solving this kind of issues or large-scale challenges on its own. And we need here again global solutions, and we need global cooperation.
Right, Ambassador, I understand that was a very diplomatic answer. Let me sort of try and ask that question slightly differently. In December last year, the Finnish parliament passed a new law to exclude equipment, and I quote, within the network's key assets if there are strong grounds to suspect the use of such equipment would endanger national security or defense. Is this an official measure in Finland to prevent Huawei and ZTE from selling to the country's 5G network, as it were?
Actually, this has a little bit longer background. And when Finland worked during our EU presidency 2019, we were very strongly putting on the agenda the sort of EU joint risk assessment, and we formed EU's toolbox actually on 5G, and we were more or less emphasizing the security challenges. And also we thought that it's most efficient way to increase the security issues at the EU level, since EU is a strong player in a regulatory framework, also a strong player in bringing the regulatory framework to the global arena. So we were already at that time very much looking about that. Are we able to answer to the regulatory framework, thinking about the challenges and also the risks of fastly developing technology field like 5G or 6G or whatever. So this was actually the amendment to the existing legislation which you are talking about, which came into force in the beginning of this year, was looking about our national security on 5G and the sort of how do we implement the EU's toolbox now in our national legislation. So that is a law on telecommunication services. The main, I referred already earlier on Finnish as an open society. We set a law, security requirements in the law, which is applied to all equipment, irrespective of their origin. So we require every supplier and service provider, irrespective of their country of origin, to fulfill the same security standards. This is about standards. So the same measures apply to all suppliers, and we are really very firm believer that this sort of importance of multi-stakeholder approach in advancing security and prosperity with new technologies. It's a combination of the government rules and regulations together with the companies as well. So I would say it is sort of promoting trustworthy, secure 5G networks, what we have been doing. But indeed, there is also, according to this legislation, there is a possibility for telecom operator that they can be ordered to remove equipment that is deemed to pose risk to a national security. But again, here is not at all set where does that risk come or what is the origin. So this is totally neutral legislation.
Right. The Chinese firm Huawei is in fact, it's a market leader, and it is also in the middle of a certain international sort of controversy. The United States, where you were the ambassador, some time ago, is doing everything it can to sort of prevent Huawei's growing influence, citing national security concerns. Not just that, the United States has also been demanding and asking its allies to sort of cease awarding contracts to Huawei. Where does Finland stand in this competition between the United States and China, given that the international community's own reaction to the US demand has been quite mixed?
First of all, we don't think that this is only competition between the US and China, because there is a very important player also here, and that is the European Union.
That's right.
And out of 4 companies, 2 are coming from Europe. So it is really, one has to have a broader picture here. Europe is a player here, but I would say that our experience in Finland is that we are really trusting on fair competition also. That the ones who are having a good product are the winners. At the same time, we trust also in a sort of open, rule-based environment. And there, of course, the fair competition must be done in a sort of fair platform. We believe also that work always starts at home. So whether it is companies or whether it is company-government cooperation or whatever. So putting a house in order, and we have had a long tradition in the development of wireless mobile technology. And of course, Nokia as a company is still our commercial crown jewel in this. But Nokia also have created a lot of spin-offs, and when they had troubles in somewhere 10 years ago, they were really, that was creating a lot of new industry in this field. But Finland was one of the first countries in the world where commercial 5G network were built. And now we have really strongly supporting our research institutions together with the companies to build the future. Sort of small companies' need is always to try to be a few steps ahead, because we cannot be, for our survival, we cannot be 2 steps behind. So we have a common interest in fostering competition actually also, as well as diversification of that supply chains in 5G technology. And really there, I would emphasize that we would see gladly fair and open market-based competition, which is maintained globally.
You know, you talked about fair competition. Now, the problem with the fair competition argument is that at the moment, it seems that Huawei's equipment is the cheapest in the world. So in an environment such as that, and you corrected me saying that it's not just a competition between the United States and China, European Union is a part of that competition, simply because you have Finland's Nokia and you have Sweden's Ericsson right there. Now, in this, if this were to be a fair competition, the Chinese would argue, for example, I mean, we are providing the cheapest technology, so we should be getting maximum contracts. What do you say to that?
Of course, it's not only the price, I would say, it is the whole package. And then there again, it's a combination of various aspects. Of course, companies are nowadays, and very many countries are looking also sustainability in their company policies or in their policies overall. Sustainability in various fields, and sometimes it costs a little bit more. So it depends how do you look these situations and what kind of time frame also the clients are doing. It might be that in the short term you get something cheap, but in long term it's much costly. That is the sort of basic rules in that sense. Of course, Nokia as a company, they like to be a very competitive in their field. And if you look what they are doing, for instance, in India, of course, that is amazing thing. They are really also forming partnerships here. They have a very big research facility in Bangalore, and they are producing also in the Chennai factory they 5G equipment. I think then it is very much also that how fair is the global trade, and are we accepting the same rules and regulations? Do we have a fair tariff politics, for instance? Are we sort of in these sort of global networks? What are these sort of operating environment, for instance, on producing and giving services. It's a complicated, comprehensive issue.
Ambassador, so one of the points that you made is very interesting. You said it's not just about geopolitics. While there is a certain amount of geopolitics around all these technologies, it is also about quality and sustainability. I was wondering if you could throw a little more light on the whole issue of quality and sustainability around 5G for our viewers.
One of the issue is, of course, the how trusted partners they are, and how do you sort of safeguard the security on the whole network, and that is of course also based on the not only technology, but what kind of standards, rules and regulations we are able to form. And of course these are still very much discussed. There are certain rules and regulations, but there are not definitely all the rules and regulations. So if you are, of course, companies nowadays, they are paying more attention also to various sort of other aspects in the society, whether it is, for instance, ecologically produced, what is the footprint of the product, and how does it how does the product or the service, for instance, has influence on the CO2 emissions and things like that. And of course, nowadays even human rights have become a issue on the competitiveness. And these of course the markets are. You can say that the markets are the demander in that sense, that when there are consumers who are paying more and more attention about this kind of sustainability aspects, of course the companies have to take into the consideration how, when, and in what manner their products or services are produced, and how trustful partners they are. And especially in this sort of field, and then it comes back to geopolitics also. I think one of the key challenges, of course, with the sort of very rapid development of technology is the security and the security of the systems. And we have of course seen all kind of forms of hybrid attacks abilities here. So there it is very important, I would say, in the field of 5G, 6G, this sort of security aspect. For Finland, this I would say this sort of openness, transparency, and fair competition are very important values. And for instance, company like Nokia, they are very much on this sort of open source, Open RAN actually it's called, which is a key to fostering this sort of competition and also much needed diversification in mobile network services, sort of benefit for the end consumer also. So it is this sort of Open RAN concept is it sort of helps for and it is open system. It helps for all vendors actually for better controlling also their systems. But anyhow, this is a very important issue, and of course with this technology development, although there are very positive sides, but there are also challenges and there are also risks, which the more you know the risk, the better of course you can prepare to have risk management, and better you can build your resilience.
Thank you. I think that's a very comprehensive answer. You threw light on a very complex sort of issues. But you did mention the issue of human rights, in your answer. The European Union recently negotiated an investment agreement with China. despite the widespread allegations and reports of human rights abuses of minorities within China, Xinjiang or Hong Kong. So how does sort of Finland look forward to balancing its own and the European Union's commercial interests and human rights concerns with China while trading with the Chinese state?
This is a very comprehensive question. Of course, every country, national country, is safeguarding its own security and economic prosperity, and it is sort of very traditional diplomatic or the sort of task of every nation. And how do we do it? Very often we search like-minded partners. And it happens to be that Finland's like-minded partner, but is the European Union. And it's not only a partner; we are a member of the very important entity like European Union, which is having legislative powers, and actually we have delegated our trade policies to the European Union. So actually, anything I would say on the trade policy with China or even with the US is of course handled jointly in the European Union. But of course, we have also bilateral issues here, and that is interesting because in our foreign policy, we are military non-aligned country, which is working very closely with partners like United States. We are working very closely with the European Union member states, but we are also working closely with our eastern neighbor Russia, and we are working also closely with China. And of course, our very dear partner is India as well, where we see a lot of increasing potential also in cooperation. So like I said earlier, also for us, it is for a smaller country, but also for the bigger countries, really important is this rule-based international order. And that is the frame which we are always promoting, whatever, whether it is US, whether it is China, whether it is Russia or any other country. Also, it is on the agenda with India. What can we do jointly in this with these global problems, global challenges? And is there something which we have something value added, or the other one have value added? That is one thing. In the trade policy, of course, it is important that we have trade agreements. It's utmost important that we have functioning WTO, World Trade Organization, but it's also utmost important that we have trade relations. And with China, this comprehensive agreement on investment would improve, according to our assessment, European assessment, but it's also Finnish assessment. It would improve operating environment and create investment opportunities for Finnish or other European companies in China. But it's also, this kind of agreements are always tools also to promote European values, or to promote, to agree jointly on the framework, on the how do we do businesses. And China is one of the most important trade and investment partner with European Union, with very many European countries. For Finland as well. Outside of European Union, after US, China is the second biggest trading partner with Finland. We haven't signed yet this agreement because it is actually the European Parliament has stated that it won't ratify the agreement so long as Chinese authorities impose arbitrary sanctions on European individuals and entities. So this is the state of this. But of course, at the same time, for Finland, it's very important that we have vis-a-vis China or vis-a-vis, for instance, US, we have a common, very united policies. And this we have with China also. China is our partner, but at the same time, it's an economic competitor. And in some strategic issues, it's a rival. So this is the state of play. And of course, when it comes to US, again, US is a very historical partner for Europe, and we have really very tight transatlantic relations, and we share values and very many interests also jointly. So this is the state of play where we are one player, and so we see the situation, and we see also in the future that China will play an important role also in global trade and global investments, like US is playing a very important role as well. So Finnish traditional policy has been always that we are cooperating with our friends and partners, but at the same time, if there are issues which are challenging, we also take those issues up.
Right. Ambassador, having served as the Finnish ambassador to the United States, how do you see Finland's role in the changing international system, its relations with the United States and China, some of which we just explained? But I'm trying to sort of understand the Finland's global agenda, as it were, going forward. You've been in Washington D.C. for some time now. You are in New Delhi. Where do you see the Finnish sort of agenda for the post-pandemic world order?
We are always trying to be a constructive partner. We are not a troublemaker. We are trying to be the one who is suggesting some solutions on the table. Like I said, Finland is military non-aligned, but which we are having an incredible own national defense system. But we are doing our security and defense cooperation mainly with our neighbor Sweden, but also with other Nordic countries. We see European Union also a security union, and we are very much in favor of enhancing this foreign and security policy of the European Union. And at the same time, we are active partner in NATO. So this is more or less the frame. We are EU is of course the key reference framework for Finland and the channel of influence and security community, like I said. But we have at the same time, for our interest is to have functioning and good bilateral relations. Bilateral relations with our friends and neighbors and the countries we have political economic relations. Of course, the US is a very, very important bilateral partner also to Finland, important and close partner, and of course also not only bilateral but through the European Union. And needless to say that we have been very grateful also on the incredible active input of the US after the Second World War also in Europe, securing the European security also in northern part of Europe. And of course with Russia we are keeping our neighbor, we are keeping our functioning and also close relations. Our presidents are regularly meeting, like our president is regularly meeting also the president of the United States and president of China. And hopefully one day also here he is able to come and meeting the president of India. There has been regular visit change between our presidents as well. And China, like I said, that we are having the similar policy like the European Union. China is our partner in very many areas, but also our economic competitor, and also in some areas strategic rival. So we are having close, good relations and with China, regular relations, and we are we are, like I said, taking up also difficult issues for instance, on human rights.
Yeah. Right. Ambassador, 5G was identified as one of the 3 areas for future collaboration between India and Finland during the 4th joint meeting in November 2020. How much progress would you say have India and Finland made in the field of 5G technology? Where do the conversations stand at this point of time?
Of course, at the moment, I must say that first of all, the meeting between the two prime ministers was very timely and very good. It was very comprehensive agenda also. But if you economically, if you want to take two issues up, it's the digitalization, and the other one is green economy, green sustainability. So we under these two clusters, we have been looking forward to work, and that is the area where we are already partnering, and we are already working quite intensively. There are very many Finnish companies in that field, not only in digitalization, but also, for instance, in the field of energy or in the field of mining or ports or etc., etc., I would say. Indeed, there was, and then we have some working groups also, and more working group actually established when sort of post-COVID period. It has been a bit challenging time at the moment to put some things forward, because simply I think we have been in Europe, but also especially in India, people are now really concentrating on COVID and the pandemic, and we haven't been really able, but we haven't been either wanting to push things forward. Also, I must say that digital companies like Nokia, very many others, of course, you see that this pandemic has not really actually caused enormous problem to them, because the pandemic has shown the value of digital world. Yeah. And therefore they have been able to work really very strongly also. But there are interesting openings for and interesting developments from both sides, actually, from Finland to India and the other way around also, to look cooperation between the companies, research institutions and universities. And there is a very nice new opening, for instance, of the startup cooperation as well. Both sides as well. So I cannot mention any names so much because they are underway, but there is a very nice, good development already going on. At the same time, in the field of education, for instance, which we think also that can be digital, there is also interesting developments and looking, for instance, cooperation between the teachers, colleges. And we are having probably now a new generation of Finnish teachers who have much better understanding of the Indian school system. And we noticed that the Indian educational reform has very many elements which we have also implemented in our educational reforms earlier. So we are sort of trying to learn each other. Unfortunately, the high-level meeting between the ministries of education had to be postponed because of COVID situation. But there we see again, it will come up a little bit later. There are enormous interesting fields in circular economy, in green energy field, which we are looking very much forward. There are companies who are with electric mobility. There is biofuels, renewable energy, emerging fuels such as hydrogen, etc. And then on the digitalization field, there is more and more looking to the artificial intelligence, not only this 5G, but also 6G lab. Oulu University, northern part of Finland, is very much already in that field. So yes, there is and quantum technologies also. I'm sort of thinking about that. That would be enormous nice sort of way to enhance the cooperation if our quantum technology experts in both countries would find something together, and that I hope it's happening. So yes, there are. I think it was a good, productive, very productive meeting, which we are looking very much forward. We are at the moment also actually boosting talents from India to Finland, although this is a time where nobody is able to travel yet. But we are already expecting the times when there is one time already on the sort of post-COVID period when we are welcoming all those students who are looking forward to study in Finland, and the other way around, of course, also, and then also the talents who are finding Finland as attractive and innovative place to work. And since we are the fourth time the most happiest country in the world, I think that we have done something right.
Ambassador, here is my final question, and that is, I realize that you are not just the Finnish ambassador to New Delhi, you are also concurrently appointed to another capital in South Asia. So I was wondering your views and the Finnish government's views on the regional geopolitics, as it were, the sort of emerging geopolitics around Indo-Pacific, for instance, what's happening in Myanmar. So I'd appreciate any views that you can share from your government on the regional geopolitics as it were.
Of course, the development of the region is very important for globally also, economically, but also strategically. And since the shift in geopolitics have been moving towards Asia and to the east, of course, this area is getting more and more important. And of course, India is playing an enormous important role. And if you look maps already, you see the India's sort of geographic position is very much in the middle and very, very important. Of course, it is important for the global security also to see how this area is developing, and for Finland, for European Union, it is important that it's a peaceful and prosperous development. The area in the Pacific area is very important. Historically, has been very important, but at the moment also very important area for Finland and European Union. The area is economically also one of the most important economic partner or region to the European Union. And of course, also when it comes not only to economic development, but also on innovations. And we were talking about technologies. Of course, there again, the region is playing, and especially India is playing enormous important role. So European Union is a major player and major partner in the region, and we want to emphasize that as well. Union is now preparing an Indo-Pacific strategy, and that was also mentioned during the Porto, the Leaders Summit meeting, and it will be a comprehensive view on how do we see our strategic partnership. We are very engaged in various fields, not only the individual member states like France or Germany or some of the others, but we are all, through the European Union, very strongly engaged in the area. And of course, looking forward for very, very inclusive also development and partnership in the future. And I would say that the European Union is a good partner also with the countries in the region. We are sharing a lot of similar values. We are sharing a lot of similar concerns. Also, we are looking some of the issues in a very similar manner.
And I think that we could partner with each other even much stronger in the areas of also global importance, like climate change, or, for instance, these technology challenges which we were just discussing, but also when it comes to global pandemics, or when it comes to some of the other global issues.
Right. Very interesting insights. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much for asking. Thank you.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.